Well, welcome to Rugby Borough's Councillors' Scrutiny Committee meeting this evening, 22nd of November. I'm Councillor Tony Gillius, Vice Chairman of this Scrutiny Committee, and I'll be chairing the meeting tonight. Just to inform members that the heating has now been turned off to comply with COVID measures, and the windows have been opened. The meeting is being web streamed to the public through the Council's YouTube channel. During the meeting, if you wish to speak, please use the push to talk button on the microphone in front of you. This will allow the camera to pan in your general direction. Before we begin the formal agenda, I'm obliged to read out the following fire notice. There is no fire drill scheduled in the building this evening. If the fire alarm sounds, then please could I ask you to make your way out of the building, down the main staircase, and out of the main doors of the Town Hall and congregate at the entrance to Caldicott Park. An officer of the Council will give instructions on when it is safe to return to the building. We'll now move to the agenda. The first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the 13th of September 2021, and I'll move to approve that. Have I got a seconder for that? Councillor Lisa Parker. All those in favour, please show. And that's unanimous. Thank you very much. I'll just sign those minutes as a true record. The second item is to notify us of the apologies. Apologies, what do we have, Lynn, for that?
Chair, we have apologies for Councillor Eccleston tonight and also Councillor Woodhouse. Councillor Douglas is here as his substitute.
Thank you very much. We now move on to declarations of interests, and let's just move through those. To receive any declarations of A, non-pecuniary interests as defined by the Councillors' Code of Conduct for Councillors. Have we got any non-pecuniary? Nope. Pecuniary interests as defined by the Councillors' Code of Conduct for Councillors. I wouldn't expect any. And C, notice under Section 106 Local Government Finance Act, non-payment of community charge or council tax. Definitely not. Well done. Right, we'll move on to item number 4 on the agenda. The councillors are asked to refer to the Cabinet report of the 6th of September, and the Chief Officer for Finance and Performance is present to answer any questions from the committee. I've got to welcome Councillor Carolyn Robbins, Portfolio Holder for Finance and Performance, Legal and Governance, and the answers to the questions submitted in advance have been circulated to the committee. Are we all happy that we've made a note of those questions and the answers? And I'm sure that Councillor Robbins would like to respond to us from those questions and answers.
Thank you, Chair. Not so much the questions and answers. You've all seen those and you've all got the report from Cabinet. Just to give you a little bit of background to those of you who are not aware of how finance and performance and legal and governance works, because, of course, that is a change from how we were before April of this year. So the finance and legal governance is essentially a new portfolio made up of different areas with 2 chief officers. I think I'm the only portfolio holder that has 2 chief officers, which is quite fun. And we have both of them here this evening. Thank you. Finance is John, of course, John Illingworth, who does an extremely good job. He looks after me very well. And AFTAB looks after legal and governance, and I have to say both are in very good hands. I don't have any problems at all. They know their jobs and they help me to understand what they do. There are lots of different areas on both sides, both parts of the portfolio. Finance, of course, as you all are aware, covers council budgets from the annual budget setting, savings, reserves, capital budgets, borrowing, and the careful management of investment portfolio. We also look after corporate assurance, business tax, and of course performance indicators. I expected to see Jerry here this evening to grill me a bit on that, so I don't know where he is tonight. And of course we always put money into reserves to set projects. We have money in reserves for the possibility of a business rate reset, which we've been expecting for the last 4 years, but hasn't happened yet. But we have that money there to cover us should there be a business rate reset, and we would lose quite a bit of business rates if and when that happens. We also have quite a large sum of money that we've borrowed for the Rounds Gardens and the Buy-Up Place projects, and of course that also is in our investment portfolio. And we do get interest from that, of course, which is in our general fund. But of course, once that money is taken out, the money in our general fund from the interest, of course, will also disappear. So we have to make sure that the two sides are evenly balanced, and that when that happens, we can cover it from another area, which of course is all part of making sure that we balance the budget at the end of the year. With at present time experiencing greater than usual constraints on our finances, as everyone is aware, COVID-19 has actually caused us to have some project problems. We have had quite a large amount given us by the government, but it was only 75p in the pound, so there are still large areas that we have got to cover ourselves. And this, of course, is where we find that we now have a gap in our budget, which we have to find. There are lots of areas as well that have caused this. I mean, low interest rates. We're not getting quite the financial return on our investments that we would normally do. And although that's very good for borrowing, it's not so good when we actually come to needing those interests to prop up our budget. Car parking income is also down, as are other services, which have been reduced because, again, of COVID. People aren't coming into town as much. People are working from home, so they're not parking in town all day. So all this has quite an effect on our finances and how they are run. AFTAB, of course, he looks after our legal and governance, and he looks out. I'm not so familiar with this area because it's new to me as well, so I'm still learning. I think I'll probably need a bit of I need to learn a little bit more about it. So AFTAB looks after our internal support services, make sure that we all have the support we need in council, and also, of course, the officers and members of employees of the council all have their support services. He looks after equality and diversity, which is a very important area for the council. We do very well in that area, and I hope that we will continue to do so. And of course, election services. Every year we have to have elections, as the setup is at the moment. And without that service, it wouldn't run as well as it does. And the councillor's code of conduct, which of course we've just updated. Another very important area for us. We have to make sure that we run that we work in the code of conduct and that we behave ourselves, basically. And there's the Constitution as well, which we are going to be reviewing very shortly. That really is it. That's pretty much what my portfolio covers. If you've got any questions, I'll be quite happy to answer them. We're working towards a balanced financial plan, and we will hopefully achieve a responsible, effective and efficient organisation at the end of the term of the financial plan. Any questions?
Well, we thank the portfolio holder for that briefing for us, and I know from a fact that she puts in a lot of time in her portfolio, and we thank her very much for for doing that. Now, I'm sure we've got lots of burning questions out there. Councillor Tim Douglas.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Robbins. Just a couple of questions based on the Cabinet report. I have had a look at the question and answers as well, and hopefully I'm not duplicating anything that's there. Just three quick questions. Obviously, portfolio holder has referred to the business rates reset. Does the council, whether it's portfolio holder or officer, have a view on what business rates reform should look like? What would be the best case scenario for Rugby Borough Council? The report and the question and answer alludes to raising costs. I think it's understandable, as portfolio has alluded to, incomes down, car parks, etc. But what would potentially raising costs on car parks, etc., look like in terms of percentages? Are we looking at 1-2% raising on these costs? And finally, the report looked at alluded to council tax support. I'm presuming that is because of COVID, but there wasn't any further detail. So is there any details on the individuals this is impacting across the borough, and perhaps the percentage difference that we're now providing on council tax support? Thank you.
Chair, if I may, I can answer the first question. Obviously, the best scenario for us with a business rate reset would be no business rate reset. If it was 25%, it would be easily managed. 50%, we'd be able to manage mostly, but the 75%, which is preferred, which the government has put forward, would mean that we would lose potentially in the first year £3 million. I will ask John to answer the other questions because they're a little bit more technical.
Let's go in reverse order. Your query around the local council tax reduction scheme. There is a report going to be presented to Cabinet in December, which identifies the scheme for the 22-23 financial year, and from what I recall, on average, around 6% of our council tax collection is attributed to the LCTS scheme, and that's been fairly consistent over the last 4 or 5 years. So, although COVID has had an impact on the borough as a whole, it hasn't really had an impact on our scheme and how much we support people through our LCTS scheme. So, could you just repeat your question around the car parking? Was it around raising charges?
Yeah, I think it's just a bit of future-proofing, really. The report obviously alludes to, income being down. It's understandable. Car parks, leisure services are in the text. I'm just thinking ahead. If we had to raise costs on these areas, what would that look like? What could that look like? What's the worst-case scenario potentially we're looking at?
In terms of fees and charges increases, I can't give you a comment on that at the moment. I just know that we are, as an authority, around £200,000 a year down on income compared to the budget for car parking. What we have done through our budget setting process for 21-22, and this is currently built into the MTFP for the next 4 years, is that we've got a COVID recovery scheme in there. So it's £1.1 million in 21-22, and it reduces by around 25% year on year after that. So the idea of that COVID recovery fund is for us to give us a bit of breathing space to understand what the long-term impact of the pandemic will be, and hopefully that will be used to smooth a transition from where we are currently to where we're going to be moving forward. But in terms of fee increases, I couldn't give you an answer on that just yet. And I suppose the question, just to add to Carolyn's comment around the business rates reset, as Carolyn said, the no reset would be preferable for us, because we would keep all of our growth above our baseline level of business rates, which is around £2.5 million this year. But if the reset was going to take place, what we'd want is our baseline level of funding to be increased, because what that would mean is that we would lose less through that cliff edge reduction, and members that were around as part of the council tax setting process for last year, we've got our business rates equalisation reserve in place. I think there's around £16 million in there at the moment, and that is there specifically to support the organisation when that drop of income takes place. And like Karen said, it could be as much as £3 million based on this year's information.
Have we got any further questions from members? Just to pick up on one point from Tim, I'm sure that the town centre consultation has just recently been completed, and be interested to note the comments and feedback on car parking charges. Was that Councillor Lisa Parker wanting to say anything?
I think Councillor Douglas had a supplementary, which I'm happy to succeed to.
Thank you. Well, it was just, I think, if I may, Chair, that's okay. Thank you. It just away from the reset, John and the portfolio as well as with your economics hat on, what should business rates reform look like in our scenario across, obviously we're thinking big here, but across the country away from the reset? Is there a view within the council, portfolio and officers on what reform should look like for towns like Rugby?
The political side of that. Well, obviously we are one of the fast-growing towns. We have a lot of growth in this town, and we have done over the years. And for us to reduce the amount of business rates would be difficult for us. But then, of course, on the other end of it, you've got towns which have very slow growth because they're not able to open up to so many businesses as we've done. So they've got slow growth. So a business rates reset for them would be good because it will give them more money. So it's a balance, isn't it? You've got to find a balance throughout the whole country that is going to suit everybody. And there's no way that you can do that. Politically, from my point of view, I want us to stay as we are, obviously. But I can understand why they want to reset the business rate. I would just like to see it a little bit better thought out. And I have actually been down to, as I think you probably remember, I went down with Manny some time ago to speak to the minister, and we discussed different ways that we thought it could happen. But we're still in the hands of local government as to what actually will happen and when. We're waiting.
Thanks, Councillor Douglas. Yeah, I'm no economist, and I suppose the answer to this question can be twin-hatted. I suppose sitting as a chief financial officer of Rugby Borough Council, whatever reform takes place, I want it to benefit the income that we get as an organisation. But on the flip side, I support an organisation, and we want to be supporting businesses to be able to excel and thrive in our borough. But I suppose the realities are that given what's happened with the pandemic, all the thinking around what business rates reform might look like in the future will need to be re-looked at because of things like working from home and all the changes in working patterns. That is going to have a significant impact. Well, if it continues and people don't return en bloc to working in offices, that is going to have a significant impact on the business premises within the borough, and that unfortunately for us will have an impact on income levels we get. So reform will hopefully support both the businesses in the borough, but also us as a collector of that business rates to be able to use it to fund services moving forward.
Any further questions?
Thank you, Chair. I've got a couple. They range across various pots in your portfolio, Councillor Robbins. Thank you for coming tonight, and thank you for answering the questions that we submitted prior to the meeting so thoroughly in the written responses we've had. I really appreciate that. So a couple of things. Obviously, council tax being, for many families across our borough, the second highest bill that they have at the start of the month to pay. Looking towards budget setting for next year, what are your hopes for council tax if you had a crystal ball and if you are so able?
Right, okay. Obviously, it would be lovely, wouldn't it, if we could say we're not going to raise council tax this year because everybody's got enough on their plate as it is. Everyone has got an increase. Obviously, interest rates have increased. Will probably increase. And inflation has gone up by just over 4%. And of course, the council's costs will also have gone up. Whatever we do, we have to pay for, and costs of everything are rising. So the council tax will have to go up. At the moment, we're looking at the same as we have in the past, 2%. Whether or not that will change, I could not possibly say at this time. There's still a long way to go before budget setting.
Thank you. Just on the point regarding part of your new portfolio regarding democracy, which I know you and I share a passion for, I wanted to ask tonight, are you personally happy with the current arrangements for the mayoral arrangements within Rugby? And how satisfied are you that we're being cautious, but we're still serving the public by allowing our mayor to attend both events within the borough and outside the borough?
I think it's a very important thing that the mayor does. She or he are the ambassador for this town, and wherever they go, they spread the good name of this council, and that's what the mayor is there to do, to be Rugby's #1 citizen. I'm hopeful that the mayor will be able to attend a lot more functions, obviously, in the future. Am I happy with the arrangements for now? Very, very difficult to say, Councillor Parker, because we are in difficult times, and there are difficulties surrounding. Well, look where we are tonight. We're sitting a long way apart from each other, and it was very good that we had this debate last week on whether or not we should continue to sit like this. And I'm so glad that we as councillors were able to put our hands up and say, well, yeah, this is what we want. The mayor, I think, to be quite honest, I haven't spoken to her at the present time, whether or not she is happy with the present arrangements. Perhaps you have. I haven't had the opportunity to actually speak to her, but I know she is attending events, and I know when she can't attend events, I know her deputy is attending events, because I was at one recently where the deputy mayor attended. So I think it's going okay at the moment.
Thank you, Councillor Robertson. Just a final comment regarding the mayoralty and democracy, I suppose, broader. As the public were not able and are not able to view the proceedings of our full council meetings while we're in Ben Hall, could we discuss briefly, and I don't want to replough the furrow from last Thursday's meeting, can we discuss briefly the reasoning behind the decision not to video events in the Ben Hall, given that at the mayor making in May, that event was streamed without problem, and the decision made last week was to continue for some foreseeable future to hold full council meetings in the Ben Hall. So what barriers are there to screening those meetings so that democracy can be seen to be done within Rugby Borough?
Councillor Parker, could I just bring in the Aftab Razak, please?
Thank you, Chair. Perhaps I can just interject here in terms of the decision that was made at full council last week. That was not a decision made by the portfolio holder. That was a decision made by full council as a whole and was debated on the night and a decision made thereafter. It isn't one that we're debating tonight, as far as I'm aware, and is not assigned solely to this portfolio, which is what we are debating and what is the item on the agenda today.
Okay, well, to come back, the filming of full council meetings would come under Councillor Robbins' portfolio, and I'm sure the councillor is more than capable and willing to share this information. I'm not asking for state secrets. We're really not at Bletchley Park here. This is democracy. It needs to be seen to be done. Would the councillor answer the question asked?
I'm happy to answer, Councillor Parker. I would love to see it streamed in the council chamber, in the Ben Hall, if we can manage it. And I'm not sure whether it's going to be possible technically. If it is, then I'm sure it would be very good. I don't like the fact that the general public can't see our meetings. I quite agree with you that we're sitting here and we're being streamed live, and people who are looking in can watch this meeting and watch our responses. However, I should point out that the decision of council last week was that we would return to the council chamber as soon as it was possible, and that it would be reviewed on a monthly basis. Now, and I think I stood up and said at that time, and this was purely my response, that I would like to see us return to the council chamber for budget setting. And I stand by that, which means we have 2 meetings left only before budget setting, one in December and then rent setting in February. If we can stream those, that would be great, but I'm not a technician. I don't know what technicalities are, so I can't really answer that part of it. But as soon as we can get back in the chamber and have our meetings screened, I'm all for that.
I think we're in agreement. Thank you, Councillor Robbins.
Thank you again. So, any further questions? Oh, Councillor Maggie O'Rourke.
Thank you, Chairman. Probably this council's greatest resource is its staff, and we haven't said too much about the staff. And I am concerned because I know we've had to use a lot more agency staff, and there's a lot of spend on that. And I understand the challenges, and we are facing challenges in terms of, we know in this country here, some people might say it's quite good, there's 1.5 million vacancies at the moment, so it's quite tight in terms of the labour market. So I just wondered what the risks are to this council in terms of the workforce and getting the right sort of skills that we need and maintaining that, what the challenges are, and if we're preparing any sort of workforce plan to actually think about that in the long term and grow our own and think about, sort of talent management and stuff like that. Thank you.
I think, as you know, Councillor O'Rourke, we do have an apprentice scheme in the council, and I think we do encourage the apprentices where there are openings to stay with the council. And we've always had a pretty good record on employment and finding the right people. Keeping the right people, well, that's something perhaps we need to work on, but I'm confident that with such a wide ranging council as we are, that we do get the right people for the right jobs. I can't really say any more than that because I don't have that expertise. I don't know whether Aftab would be able to fill in any more on that side of it.
Yes, just through you, Chair. Yes, happy to take on board the comments from Councillor O'Rourke, and it is a subject that my fellow chief officers will support, and it's one that we are discussing within the leadership team to see how we can best exercise the overview that Councillor O'Rourke has mentioned. So certainly we are looking at all options as a leadership team, and we will liaise with our portfolio holders to implement that. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much for that. In fact, we've got John Linwood. Right.
I'm just going to add to the use of agency, and actually, certainly with some of the agency usage in finance and performance, it's perhaps to protect the well-being of it. Can you hear me better now? Sorry, apologies. I know with some of the agency usage in finance and performance, some of it is down to protect key services and the well-being of some of the individuals. I know certainly with the finance team, we've got 3 vacant posts at the moment, with a team of 14, and we've gone through 2 recruitment processes, and the unfortunate position is that without those people in post, we wouldn't be able to provide our services to the rest of the organisation. So we are using agency to kind of transition from the vacant post to the new people coming in, but it's an option of last resort.
Thank you once again. No more questions then, we can move on. Oh, we've got another one over there. Councillor Noreen.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report, Councillor Robbins. Very useful. You may or may not be able to answer this at this moment in time. This is probably more a question for John. Are you aware of how many discretionary housing payments have been paid out this year, and how much is actually left, considering how much is likely to be set aside next year, considering people have lost their £20 a week universal credit top-up?
I must admit, at this point in time, I can't give you that information, but are you happy for me to take that back and provide a response afterwards? Okay.
Right, we'll finish with questions for the portfolio holder and John. Okay, thank you both for coming along. If you want to escape now, please do. As long as you know the password to get out. Do you mind if we carry on with the meeting while you're departing? Is that okay? Thank you very much. Right, we'll move on to item 5 on the agenda, and that is the appointment to Warwickshire County Council Adult Social Care and Health Overview and Scrutiny Committee. And I call for nominations, and I know that Councillor Peter Eccleston is very interested in being that nominated person, so from the Chair I'll nominate him. Is there a seconder? We've got a seconder, Lisa Parker. Any further nominations? No? Okay then. That is, do you want to vote on that? Seconders, all those in favour? Peter Eccleston? That's it, that is approved. Thank you. Right, we'll move on now to item 6, which is the motion from the Council. This is regarding the graffiti. And to approve the one-page strategy. Now, we've had some further comments from the Councillor Rabin, who's put this motion forward. And he would like to add to the one-page strategy to successfully engage and involve young people previously involved in graffiti tagging, reducing antisocial behaviour, and also to contribute to developing local identity and generating community pride. Are we all happy with adding those 2 bits to the one-page strategy? Hoping that it will actually fit on one page?
Sorry, just through you, Chair. In terms of the engagement, perhaps we engage the wider public as a whole, rather than the specific groups that have been cited, so we have a clearer picture as to whether this is one which is supported by the public as a whole.
Thanks for that. Councillor Tim Douglas.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think we'll welcome the amended wording of Councillor Raven. I mean, I would just like to add, I mean, we've got a broad phrase there, the public. I think that there does need to be something added, support for residents and businesses. Certainly my experience of graffiti and having raised questions in full council on this matter, there needs to be a distinction made between public and private land, what the council can and cannot do, but I don't think our support should just stop there. We should be able to signpost affected residents to various agencies for support, and also businesses as well. Certainly residents in Paddocks would have been affected by graffiti and have felt that the council didn't offer them support because it was on private land. So I welcome everything in the one-page strategy, but I would like to see reference to support for residents and businesses, and certainly let's see if we can get some affected businesses. There has been businesses in Hill Morton and residents in Paddocks affected to get their views on the council's response. I would certainly like that added in if possible, please. Thank you.
Councillors happy that that is included? You okay with that? And we've also got to agree the formation of the task group to deal with this, so we're all in agreement with that we form that and go ahead with it. All those in favour, please show. Thank you all very much. Okay, then we move then to agenda item 7, the work programme. We've got overview and scrutiny work programme, long-term natural and work programme. We've got the next meeting, the 24th of January. We've got, as agreed, on the 13th, the report will outline the scope for review and understanding of healthcare provision. And is Tom going to give us a bit of a briefing on this? You're not? Okay, all right. It just looked as though you were for a minute. I thought, well, if you're going to... So has anyone got any comments on the work programme, on that first page of the work programme? I know we've got the January one is the one I'm interested in to begin with. So has anybody got any comments? No.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I mean, what is our overarching aim for that meeting? I mean, it's a review on the topic of emergency healthcare provision, but can we have a bit more detail, please?
Yes, it's in the report, but further down the agenda item 7, we've got the health and wellbeing report at the bottom. Timescales to be agreed for that.
If you don't mind, it was from my suggestion that was put on the agenda, and it rose from our discussions about the West Midlands Ambulance Service. My reason behind it, I think, is quite clear in there, is an understanding of what emergency healthcare provision is provided in the town. The urgent care unit in Rugby, what does it do? What can it deal with? What community nurses can do with? Because they were both mentioned as mitigation for the closure of the hub, the West Midlands Ambulance Hub in Rugby. I'd also like to suggest that the council looks at, that the task group looks at, the information that is available to residents where they can get help out of hours, and who's going to provide that service. One of my main concerns is the lack, I wouldn't say lack, my perception that GPs are not as available as they once were. and what other services are available in the town. And there's a lot of talk also about accident and emergency service in the town. From my medical background and talking to some of the people involved high up within the NHS service, I'm not sure people understand what that entails. But we have got an urgent care centre that's open 24/7 in the town. I don't think people are aware of it, and also maybe not aware what the limitations are of the services they provide, based on the fact that each category of illness, disease or injury requires its own specialist team, nurses and doctors. So hopefully this will shed light on it and inform the public of what services we have in the town and how they can access them. I hope that's helpful, Chair.
Thanks, Chair. With following on from Councillor Mahoney's comments, I'd like also for that meeting to hear information regarding provision of healthcare services to the large number of asylum seekers that we've welcomed to the town, if that could be included in the agenda, please.
Councillor Tim Douglas.
Thank you, Chair. I think just a quick point on the overall strategy. I think I've always been a great believer that scrutiny has had its best sessions when we get witnesses in, outside agencies and residents. And I think we sometimes can be just sit there talking to each other, and it is great to speak to the portfolio holders and the officers, but maybe moving forward, as well as the amends that have been made, I think tonight with more detail, but should the programme have date, item, report, potentially witness as a column or outside agency, and then we can start to think as we develop the programme who do we want in to speak to engage with the outside world in order to shape, policy making and thinking. And as Councillor Mahoney alluded to, then we can report back to residents. So I think resident engagement, witnesses, outside bodies, let's get them in and let's put it down on paper and get the books in early. Thank you.
What do you feel about that, Councillor Mahoney?
Yeah, sorry, drawing on my experience as past chair of this committee, the task group will be laying those down, and I've also suggested quite a list of consultees to the democratic services, which will include the local commissioning group, people from Covent Warwick Hospital Trust, and other healthcare providers. So we won't be sitting around talking to ourselves, and it will, hopefully, Chair, will be a separate task group. It won't be dealt with by this committee. And once that task group is agreed and going forward with this, we'll have to do a one-page strategy, which we've already seen for graffiti, one along those lines, which will have everything you've requested in there. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, I'll put it to the membership. Then we'll have to set up a task group to deal with that. All those in favour? Excellent, thank you. I'll keep switching it off. So let's look a bit further down then, because we've got a few items on here that we're going to be struggling to get to if we don't get a few more bits on the agenda. We've got crime and disorder down for the March meeting, and an overview of the work carried out by the scrutiny during the 21-22. Is there any discussion on that? No, we're okay with that one. We've got to look at other items to be scheduled. Now, we've also got the task group working at the graffiti issue, and we've got also something high on the agenda is planning enforcement and street cleansing. So I think as we've got a new head of planning, I think it might be beneficial to let her bed into the job a while, so we get a feel for what's required. We could probably leave that till maybe the April meeting, and probably bring something to our next meeting, maybe on the street cleansing. Are we happy with that to come forward? Some officers and maybe the portfolio to see how we're going with that and how we're going to progress and get our streets nice and clean again. Although some areas are nice and clean, others aren't. So we've got to try and establish why that is the case. Right. Has anybody got anything else to raise on the work programme? Item 7. I see a lot of shaking heads. Does anybody want to pick out anything in particular? Are you sure? We've got the managing housing arrears, the council tax arrears. We've got the task group set up for that now, Lynn, have we?
Yes, Chair, that's an ongoing task group with its work stalled, but now we're in the process of getting the work going again and getting external people into the next meeting to give evidence.
And I believe Councillor Parker's going to be sitting on that one.
Happy to, Chair.
Yep.
Just
Excellent.
further comments is that it looks quite a comprehensive list. I think we need to build some capacity in for issues that might arise, but it looks well defined, and thanks for you and the Chairman and members' contributions so far, and officers, of course.
Okay. Have we got any further comments on the work programme? You think we're getting on okay, or we want to bring more onto it? You're okay with that? So is that's the item on the agenda, I believe. Okay, so in that case then I'll draw the meeting to a close. And thank you all very much for attending. Thanks for the live stream. Thank you.